Look at the creature walking beside you. It can breathe fire. It can shatter concrete. In the wild, it is an apex predator that bows to absolutely nothing. Yet when you tell it to sit, it sits. When you point at an enemy, it fights. Why? Why does a monster that could snap you in half look at you like you are the center of the universe? We call it friendship, the magical bond between trainer and Pokémon. But the real biological reason it refuses to leave your side is something much quieter and much darker. Stay until the end, and I'll show you the exact psychology of why it stays. Because once you understand it, you'll realize you were never its best friend. You're taught this relationship from one side only, yours. You catch, you name, you train, you command. Every word in that sentence puts you at the center and the Pokémon in orbit around you. But the animal on the other end of that bond never read the guide. It doesn't know it's been caught. It only knows what happened to it and who was standing there when it did. It has no concept of trainer, no concept of a team or the badges on your jacket. Those are stories we tell one another about them. The Pokémon is living a different story entirely. One with you at the dead center of it, just not in the role you wrote for yourself. So for the next few minutes, stop asking what your Pokémon is to you, and start asking what you are to it. Let's bury the first idea, because almost everyone starts here. You think your Pokémon obeys you because you stand above it, the leader, the one it submits to. You give the order, it follows. That feels like proof of rank. That idea has a history. Decades ago, researchers watched captive wolves, strangers forced together into a pen they couldn't leave, claw their way into a pecking order. They named the one on top the Alpha, the boss, the pack leader. And for 50 years after, every dog owner inherited that word. The trouble is that it was wrong. In the wild, a wolf pack isn't a tournament of rivals, it's a family. The alpha is just a parent feeding its young. The scientist who made the term famous spent his later years asking people please to stop using it. So when your Pokémon follows your command, it isn't kneeling to a superior. And here is the harder thing to sit with. Obedience and trust are not the same instinct. We have never once found an animal where they were. A creature can obey you out of fear, out of habit, out of hunger, out of simply having nowhere else to be. None of those is the bond you think you're watching when it lines up beside you. In fact, the most flawless obedience I've ever recorded came from the most frightened animals. The ones that never hesitate. The ones that flinch just slightly, a half second before they comply. A Pokémon that truly trusts you can afford to pause. Fear cannot. So if it isn't rank, what is it? Something quieter. Something that began while your Pokémon was still very young. Before you were anything else to your Pokémon, you were a source. Food, warmth, clean water, the thing that made the ache stop after a hard battle. In animal behavior, we call this resource provisioning, and it isn't a cold idea. It's the oldest root of nearly every bond on Earth, the first and simplest version of love there is. You are the one who keeps me alive. I've sat in the dark and watched this settle into a creature. A Pokémon that's been with one trainer a long time stops scanning the tree line the moment that trainer is near. The body unclenches. The breathing slows. You can see the exact second it decides it's safe. Watch where yours turns its head when it's hurt, or hungry, or afraid. It turns to you, not because you're powerful, because at some point early on, you were the answer, and it filed that away where it can't be unfiled. And it runs deeper than food. Watch your Pokémon check your face before it decides whether the new thing in the room is a threat. There's a name for that too, social referencing. It means the animal has stopped fully trusting its own read of danger and started borrowing yours. Your calm becomes its calm. Your flinch becomes its flinch. By then, you aren't only feeding the body, you're tuning it. But a provider can be replaced. Anyone with a full bag of berries could do it. If a source of food were all you were, your Pokémon would drift to the next open hand the day yours went empty. It doesn't. So you're already more than that, and this is where it stops being comfortable. And this is the part nobody studies. If your Pokémon hatched in your care, or you took it in while it was very young, there's a real chance you never earned its bond at all. You were simply there, first. There's a phenomenon in real biology called imprinting. In the first hours after certain animals are born, a window cracks open, and the first large, living, moving thing they lay eyes on, they file away, permanently, as parent. It doesn't have to look like them. It doesn't even have to be kind. It only has to be there while the window is open. A scientist named Lorenz kept a flock of geese that were convinced he was their mother, for no reason other than that he was the first thing they ever saw. They followed him to the water, across fields, for the rest of their lives. Imprinting doesn't fade. It can't be argued out of the animal. It isn't a decision the creature makes. It's a door that opens once, locks behind whatever happened to be standing there, and never opens again. I'll be honest with you. I used to find this beautiful. The little thing that fixes on you, that lights up the instant you walk in. I thought that was love, arriving early. And it isn't only the hatched ones. Take any Pokémon young enough, while that window is still open, even a crack, and the same lock can quietly turn. The earlier you found it, the less of this was ever a verdict on you, and the more of it was just a matter of timing. Now I think about the window, and about how the animal never got a vote on what walked through it. Your Pokémon's devotion may have been decided in the first 6 minutes of its life, and you simply happened to be the shape that was standing there. If you want to understand the creature you spend your life beside, that is the only thing this channel does. If that's worth something to you, the quiet way to say so is the like, the subscribe. It puts this in front of more trainers, so more of them look closer too. Now, this is where the comfortable answers run out. There's an experiment, first run on human infants and later on dogs. They call it the strange situation. You place the young one in an unfamiliar room. Then you bring the caregiver in and out and back in again, and you watch what changes in the body each time the door opens. A securely attached animal does something very specific. With you in the room, it explores. It's braver. It pushes out toward the edges of the unfamiliar, and every so often it glances back just to confirm you haven't moved. The researchers have a name for what you become in that moment. A secure base. The single fixed point it measures the entire world against. You've watched this in your own Pokémon without ever naming it. The way it won't fully settle until you've settled first. The way it slides its body between you and a stranger, then glances at your face to learn whether the stranger is allowed. That isn't a creature guarding its territory. You are its territory. And the instant you leave the room, it deflates. The exploring stops. The world gets smaller and sharper the second your back is turned. That glance in battle, the one I asked you about at the very start, that isn't a partner checking in. That's a frightened animal standing at the edge of an open field, turning to make certain its fixed point is still behind it. It is the same glance Lorenz's geese gave. The same one a child gives across a crowded playground, over and over, all afternoon long. It isn't asking, are we winning? It's asking, are you still there? And the Pokémon that never gets a fixed point, the one passed hand to hand, boxed and unboxed, never allowed to settle on a single person. You can read that in the body too. It either clings far too hard, or it quietly stops reaching out at all. Now think about the actual shape of your Pokémon's life. A wild animal has a territory, a den it knows in the dark, a patch of the world that is home, and that stays exactly where it was left. For an animal, that stability isn't a comfort, it's a need, wired in as deep as hunger. Constant displacement, never knowing where you'll wake, never learning the exits of a place before you're moved out of it again, is one of the most reliable ways we have ever found to quietly wear a living body down. There's a term for that cost: allostatic load. It's the slow tax a body pays for an alarm that never fully switches off, the damage that builds invisibly when nothing is ever allowed to feel permanent. You see it as a Pokémon that's a little too alert, a little too quick to startle at a sound, one that never quite powers all the way down, even somewhere safe. That isn't a personality quirk. It's a body that has never been given a reason to believe the next move isn't already coming. Your Pokémon has none of the stability that would let that alarm rest. Today a forest, tomorrow a city it has never smelled. Tonight, the inside of a ball, and then a strange white room in a building it's never seen, surrounded by the cries of Pokémon it will never meet. And the one place that's meant to be its rest, the ball itself, isn't rest. It's only the smallest room of them all. Everything moves, everything changes. The ground is never the same ground twice. Except you. You are the only feature of its entire world that travels with it, the one constant in a life of relentless motion. Not its home, but the nearest thing to a home it has ever been allowed to keep. So it holds on to you the way a drowning thing holds on to the one solid object in the water. Not gently, completely. So, what are you to your Pokémon? Not its master. We buried that one. Not only the hand that feeds it. Anyone could be that. You are, all at the same time. The first face it ever fixed itself onto. The thing it runs to when it's hurt. The base it measures the whole world against. The one piece of ground that never shifts beneath it. And here is the part that should stop you. In the wild, those are different things. The parent is not the food source. The safe den is not the family. No single creature in nature is ever all of them at once. Because no animal in nature is ever allowed to become that dependent on one other being. It would be too dangerous. Put your whole life in one place, and the day that place walks away, you have nothing left. Your Pokémon has put its whole life in you. That is what the glance is asking. Not do you trust me, something underneath that. Are you still the world? Because I was never handed another one. It trusts you completely. Not because you earned every part of it. Because it was never once offered the chance to spread that trust anywhere else. You became its entire reality before it was old enough to know it had a choice, and now it can't leave the field long enough to find out whether it ever did. The ones that love you the hardest are very often the ones with the fewest other doors. I don't say that to be cruel. It's only what dependence looks like, seen honestly from the inside. The bond is real. I want to be clear about that. What it feels for you is not a trick, and it is not nothing. It's only that real and freely given were never the same thing. And we built a whole world where, for them, the two almost never get to be. The next time your Pokémon turns to look at you, in a battle, across a room, through the glass of its ball, you'll know it isn't looking for a trainer. It's checking that its entire world is still standing where it left it. You've seen it 1,000 times. Now you can't unsee it.